A billionaire believes he purchased the ultimate luxury, a life without complications. That is, until a single glance at a crowded crosswalk shatters his carefully constructed world, revealing a secret that has been breathing for 4 months, looking at the world with his eyes. Welcome to a story of betrayal, redemption, and the terrifying beauty of the truth. But before we unlock the door to this secret life, take a second to join our family here at Apex Tales. If you want to witness how a heart of stone turns into a father's love, smash that subscribe button right now, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss a beat of the drama. You need to be subscribed to see what happens next. Now, let the secrets unfold. Sebastian Cross adjusted the platinum links of his Patek Philippe, the cool metal a grounding weight against his wrist as he guided the obsidian Aston Martin through the golden hour arteries of downtown Seattle. The late afternoon sun slashed through the skyline, casting long, cinematic shadows across the hand-stitched leather interior, illuminating the woman beside him. Vivian March, 28, was a vision of curated perfection, blonde waves cascading with deliberate carelessness, oversized designer frames shielding eyes that were always scouting the next great photograph. She was the embodiment of everything Sebastian had convinced himself he needed: beautiful, self-sufficient, and blissfully uncomplicated. "I still can't believe you secured a table at Canlis on a Friday," Vivian murmured, checking her lipstick in the vanity mirror, her voice a purr of satisfaction. "The waitlist is practically a myth at this point." Sebastian offered a faint, practiced smile, his steel gray eyes never leaving the asphalt river ahead. At 40, he had mastered the art of acquiring the impossible. His life was a testament to the power of precision. As the CEO of a renewable energy empire that powered half the Pacific Northwest, he viewed spontaneity as a luxury he could afford to buy. "Perks of the trade," he replied, his voice a low baritone that vibrated with the quiet confidence of a man who rarely heard the word no. "Energy runs the city, Vivian. I just turned the lights on." She laughed, a light, airy sound that didn't demand anything from him. "You make it sound so clinical." "It's romantic, Sebastian." "Own it." Clinical. That was the word he preferred. After years of turbulent relationships, weeping exes, and emotional demands that felt like shackles, Sebastian had curated a life of exquisite simplicity. His relationship with Vivian was 90 days old, the sweet spot. Long enough to enjoy the chemistry, short enough to avoid the suffocating conversations about where they were heading. He slowed the Aston Martin as the traffic light at 4th Avenue bled from amber to red. His phone vibrated against his ribcage, market updates, merger details, but he ignored it. Friday evenings were sacred spaces carved out for art galleries, Michelin-starred dinners, and companionship that never asked him to open the vault of his soul. "I admire how centered you are," Vivian said, her hand drifting across the console to brush his knuckles. "When we met, you were vibrating with tension. Now, you're like a calm sea." Sebastian's grip on the steering wheel tightened imperceptibly. Centered. That was one word for it. Another was hollowed out, scraped clean of the messiness of human entanglement. His previous engagement had taught him that he was built for empire, not for hearth and home. The breakup with Isla had been a surgical procedure, painful, deep, but necessary to remove the incompatibility that would have festered. He had chosen freedom. "I've learned to appreciate the silence," he said, and he meant it. No more pressure to define the future. No more hints about nurseries or Sunday family roasts. The crosswalk ahead swarmed with the evening exodus, tech workers with badges swinging from their hips, tourists in rain shells, teenagers glued to screens. Sebastian watched the humanity flow past with the detached interest of a man watching an aquarium. He was mentally selecting a wine for dinner, perhaps a Barolo, when the universe suddenly tilted on its axis. A woman was navigating the crush of pedestrians, moving with a protective, fluid grace that stopped Sebastian's heart in his chest. She was carrying a double carrier strapped to her torso. 2 infants. Twins. Bundled in soft knits of sage and cream. Her auburn hair was pulled back in a utilitarian ponytail, revealing the elegant, swan-like slope of her neck, a curve he had traced with his fingertips 1,000 times. Isla Bennett. The air left the cabin of the car. It was her. The woman he had walked away from exactly 13 months ago. Isla paused in the middle of the intersection as the crowd parted around her like water around a stone. One of the infants shifted, letting out a visible cry, and Isla's hand came up, stroking the baby's cheek with a tenderness that looked like it physically hurt. Her lips moved. She was singing. Even through the soundproof glass of the Aston Martin, Sebastian knew she was humming The Way You Look Tonight. It was her nervous tick, her joy, her lullaby. The baby settled instantly. Isla adjusted the strap on her shoulder and vanished into the throng on the other side of the avenue. Sebastian. Vivian's voice sounded like it was coming from underwater. The light is green. He blinked. The afterimage of the twins burned onto his retinas. Cars behind him honked, a rude awakening. He pressed the accelerator, his foot heavy, his hands trembling so violently he had to lock his elbows to keep the car straight. 13 months. When they had parted ways, staring at each other across their shared living room with tear-filled eyes, Isla hadn't mentioned a pregnancy. But the math was a sledgehammer swinging at his temple. 4-month-old infants plus 9 months of gestation. The timeline wasn't just possible, it was a mathematical certainty. You look like you've seen a ghost, Vivian said, her photographer's eye catching the drain of color from his face. Do you know her? That woman you were staring at. Sebastian stared ahead, the road blurring. Had Isla known? Had she stood there, watching him pack his bags, carrying his children in her womb, and chosen silence? Or had she found out after the door clicked shut, deciding that a man who chose his empire over a family didn't deserve to know? The questions multiplied like a virus. But beneath the shock, a crater was opening up in his chest. The woman he thought he knew inside out was a mother. She was raising 2 human beings, possibly his human beings, and she had looked serene. Exhausted, yes, but possessed of a terrifying purpose he had never seen in her before. Sebastian. Sorry, he croaked, forcing a jagged smile. Just a work issue. A complication with the grid. But the grid was fine. His life was the thing that was short-circuiting. He pulled into the valet lane at Canlis, the gravel crunching beneath the tires. Vivian was already checking her reflection, buzzing with the anticipation of the evening. She represented the life he had chosen, glossy, high status, unburdened. So why did the memory of Isla humming to those babies make his expensive freedom feel like a prison cell? As he handed the keys to the valet, a single question echoed in the cavern of his mind, loud enough to drown out the city. What if the life I ran away from was the only one that actually mattered? Isla Bennett shifted baby Leo to her left shoulder as she wrestled with the lock of her modest second-floor walk-up in Capitol Hill. The late afternoon light filtered through the sheer curtains, painting the hardwood floors she had refinished herself at 7 months pregnant. The apartment was a universe away from the penthouse she had shared with Sebastian. There were no floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Elliott Bay, no voice-activated climate control, no marble surfaces cold enough to chill wine instantly. But it was hers. The walls were painted a soft, buttery yellow, a color she chose because she believed children should grow up inside sunshine. She lowered both babies into their shared crib, a necessity of space rather than design. Leo immediately reached out, his tiny hand finding his sister Maya's fingers. They intertwined, a knot of humanity that never failed to make Isla's chest ache with a fierce, terrifying love. For months of nights where sleep was a rumor. For months of learning to change diapers with one hand while holding a bottle in the other. For months of staring at faces that were undeniable maps of the man who had left her. Isla moved to the kitchenette, a space so compact she could touch the fridge and the stove simultaneously. It was a command center of survival. The refrigerator wasn't stainless steel. It was a mosaic of appointment cards, vaccination schedules, and reminders for the freelance marketing deadlines she handled while the twins napped. Her phone buzzed. A text from her sister, Claire. Coffee run tomorrow? I can bring the good donuts. Isla smiled, typing back one-handed. Only if you don't mind the chaos. Maya is discovering her vocal cords. Chaos is my love language. See you at 10. This was her tribe now. Claire. Her elderly neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, who smelled of cinnamon and watched the twins when Isla had urgent Zoom calls. And Dr. Sarah Kim, the pediatrician who treated Isla's anxiety with as much care as she treated the twins' colic. A small circle, tightly drawn, impenetrable. She tested the formula on her wrist. a habit that triggered a sensory memory of Sebastian teasing her about her overpreparedness. You research dinner reservations like you're invading a country, he had laughed once. He hadn't understood that her planning wasn't fear, it was love. It was care made manifest. A cry pierced the quiet. Maya, high-pitched and demanding, followed immediately by Leo's sympathetic baritone wail. Islam moved with the muscle memory of a soldier, scooping them both up, settling into the oversized rocking chair she had salvaged from a thrift store. The wood creaked, a comforting, rhythmic heartbeat. She fed Maya while Leo nuzzled into the crook of her neck, his breathing syncing with hers. This was the moment she had dreaded most when the second pink line appeared on the test stick, the solitude. The crushing weight of being the sole anchor for two tiny souls. But instead of drowning, Isla had found she could float. She had discovered a reservoir of steel in her spine she didn't know existed. Her phone rang again. Her heart did a traitorous gallop. Sebastian? No. It was her boss at the marketing firm. Isla, I know it's Friday evening, but the Johnson campaign needs a revise. Can you turn it around by Monday? Isla looked at the laundry mountain in the corner, at the stack of bills, at the babies who needed her warmth more than she needed sleep. Send it over, she said, her voice steady. I'll handle it. You're a machine, Isla. I'm not a machine, she thought as she hung up. I'm a mother. She looked down. Leo had Sebastian's straight, aristocratic nose and the stubborn set of his jaw. Maya had his eyes, steel gray, capable of looking right through you. They were beautiful. They were healthy. And they were completely unaware that their father was currently one of the wealthiest men in the city, likely drinking wine that cost more than their stroller. She had Googled him once, late at night, in a moment of weakness. The images had burned her. Sebastian at a gala, Sebastian cutting a ribbon, Sebastian looking powerful and unencumbered. She had closed the laptop and vowed never to look again. She hadn't told him. The decision sat in her gut, heavy and complicated. Sebastian had been brutally honest about never wanting children. He viewed domesticity as a cage. When he ended things, he had given her freedom to find someone who wanted a family. To drag him back into this life, to force him into a role he despised, felt like a betrayal of both of them. I made the right choice, she whispered to Leo's sleeping face. I chose peace for you. I chose a parent who wanted you with every fiber of her being. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the apartment into twilight, a small, treacherous voice whispered back, Are you protecting them from rejection? Or are you protecting yourself? The Wagyu beef at Canlis tasted like ash. The 1998 Chateau Margaux might as well have been tap water. Across the table, Vivian was recounting her latest photo shoot, her hands animating the air, but Sebastian was deaf to it. All he could see were those two bundles in blue and pink. You've left the building, Vivian said, setting her glass down with a sharp clink. Should I send a search party? Sebastian snapped back to the present. I apologize. My mind is drifting. Vivian studied him, head tilted. You saw someone. The woman with the babies. The ex. Sebastian stiffened. He had given Vivian the Cliff's Notes of his past. Isla was a closed chapter, a difference of life paths. Yes. And seeing her brought up questions. Vivian took a sip of wine, her eyes cool and assessing. Do you want to talk about it? There's nothing to talk about yet. Okay. Well, when you figure out what yet means, let me know if I need to pack a bag. Her lack of jealousy, her cool detachment, it was exactly what he had signed up for. No drama. No messy feelings. So why did he suddenly want her to scream? Why did he want someone to grab him by the shoulders and ask him what the hell was going on? He dropped her off at her loft in Queen and with a chaste kiss on the cheek. Take care, Sebastian, she said, her voice softer than usual. Whatever this is, don't let it eat you alive. He didn't go home to his penthouse. He drove the Aston Martin to his office tower, but instead of going up, he called Silas Graves. Silas was a private investigator who operated in the shadows of the corporate world, usually vetting hostile takeovers. He answered on the second ring. Cross. It's late. I need a job done. Personal. Off the books. Expensive words. I need to know about a woman. Isla Bennett. Her address. Her employment. And specifically, I need to know about her children. There was a pause on the line. You think you have heirs you don't know about? I need to know I don't, Sebastian lied. I need certainty, Silas. Give me 24 hours. 24 hours later, Sebastian sat in Silas's office in Pioneer Square, a room that smelled of stale coffee and old secrets. Silas slid a manila folder across the scarred oak desk. "Are you ready for this?" Silas asked, his voice gravel. Sebastian's hand hovered over the folder. "Just tell me." Isla Bennett. Lives at 1247 Pine Street. Freelance marketing. Single mother to twins, Leo James Bennett and Maya Grace Bennett. Born 4 months and 2 weeks ago. The heir left the room. For months, 2 weeks. The father? Sebastian whispered. Birth certificate lists unknown. Hospital records show she attended every prenatal appointment solo. No emergency contact listed other than a sister. She's doing this alone, Sebastian. Completely alone. Sebastian flipped the folder open. The photos spilled out like an accusation. Isla pushing a stroller in the rain. Isla laughing at a park, holding a baby high in the air. Isla looking exhausted in a grocery store line. And then, one shot taken through a window. Isla on the floor, on her stomach, nose to nose with 2 infants, her face radiant with a joy so pure it looked painful. "The boy," Silas said quietly. "He has your jawline. I'm not a DNA test, but I have eyes." Sebastian stared at the photo. Leo, Maya, his son, his daughter. She had known. She had carried them, birthed them, and cared for them in silence while he was negotiating energy contracts and dating photographers. "She's been interviewing for full-time jobs," Silas added. "Money is tight. The freelance work isn't cutting it for 3 people." Sebastian felt a wave of nausea. His children were living in financial precarity while he sat on a fortune. "Stop the surveillance," Sebastian commanded, his voice shaking. "Destroy the files. Wipe the digital footprint. This never happens again. Consider it gone." Sebastian walked out into the rain. He drove to his penthouse, stood amidst his Italian furniture and his priceless art, and realized the space felt like a mausoleum. He had built a fortress of solitude, and now he was starving inside it. Before we see what Sebastian does with this shattering truth, if you're feeling the weight of this secret, smash that subscribe button. Join the Apex Tales family. We need to know, what would you do? Would you knock on that door? Tell us in the comments. Sebastian sat in his car across from 1247 Pine Street for 45 minutes. The rain drummed a relentless rhythm on the roof of the Aston Martin. He watched the lighted window on the 2nd floor. A shadow moved, Isla, pacing. He had no right to be here. He had forfeited his ticket to this show over a year ago. But the biology in his veins was screaming louder than his logic. The front door of the building opened. Isla stepped out, carrying a small trash bag. She wore oversized sweatpants and a messy bun held up by a pencil. She looked exhausted, beautiful, and real. She tossed the bag in the dumpster and turned. She froze. He was standing on the sidewalk, 10 feet away, disregarding the rain soaking his cashmere coat. "Sebastian," she breathed. The color drained from her face. Her hand flew to her throat, a gesture of protection. "I saw you," he said, his voice raw. "Yesterday, crossing 4th Avenue. I didn't see you. You were carrying 2 babies." The silence between them was heavy, wet, and electric. "Yes," she whispered. "Are they mine?" The question hung there, suspended in the mist. Isla didn't flinch. She straightened her spine, drawing herself up to her full height. "What do you want me to say, Sebastian? Do you want a confession? Or do you want absolution?" "I want the truth." "The truth," she said, her voice gaining steel, "is that I am raising 2 happy, loved children. The truth is that their life is peaceful. The truth is that I respected your choice. My choice. You were clear, crystal clear. You wanted an empire. You wanted freedom. You didn't want this." She gestured vaguely at the building, at herself. "I gave you exactly what you asked for." "People change," he said, stepping closer. "Do they?" She looked at him with searing green eyes. "Or do they just get curious when they realize their empty penthouse is actually empty?" A cry drifted down from the open window above. Isla's head snapped up. "I have to go." She turned. "Isla, wait." He caught her arm, gently, barely a touch. "Please, just 5 minutes. Let me see them." "Why? So you can satisfy your curiosity and leave? I won't let you treat them like a tourist attraction in your life." "I hired a private investigator," he blurted out. Isla ripped her arm away, horror flooding her face. "You what?" "I needed to know. I saw the photos, Isla. The timeline. I know they're mine." "They are my children," she hissed, her voice trembling with rage. I carried them. I birthed them. I have been up every night for 4 months while you were doing whatever it is you do. You don't get to claim them because you paid a stranger to spy on me. I know, he pleaded, the rain mixing with the desperation on his face. I handled it wrong. I handle everything wrong. But I am standing here now, begging you. 5 minutes. If I see them and I feel nothing, I walk away. You never see me again. I promise. Isla studied him. She saw the wet hair, the ruined shoes, the terrified eyes of a man who was usually terrified of nothing. 5 minutes, she said, her voice icy. And then you leave. And you think about what you actually want, Sebastian. Because if you come into their lives, you don't get to leave again. She unlocked the door. He followed her up the narrow, creaking stairs, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The apartment smelled of lavender and milk. It was small, warm, and cluttered with the debris of love, soft books, pacifiers, a mobile of paper cranes. They're awake, Isla said, dropping her keys. Wait here. She disappeared around a corner. Her voice changed, shifting into a soft, melodic coo. Mama's here. Did you miss me? Who's that fussing? Is that my Leo? Sebastian felt like an intruder in a temple. You can come in, she called. He rounded the corner. The bedroom had been converted into a nursery. A large playmat dominated the floor. And there, lying on their backs, kicking their legs, were 2 tiny humans. Leo. Maya. Sebastian fell to his knees. Leo looked at him with serious, dark eyes, Sebastian's eyes. Maya was smiling, kicking her feet, her auburn fuzz catching the light. This is Sebastian, Isla said to the babies, her voice tight. She didn't say daddy. Sebastian reached out a trembling hand. He touched Leo's tiny fist. Instantly, the baby's fingers curled around Sebastian's index finger. The grip was shockingly strong. The connection was instant. It was violent. It was a physical blow that shattered the walls Sebastian had spent 40 years building. This wasn't biology. This was gravity. He's strong, Sebastian choked out. He holds his head up already, Isla said, leaning against the doorframe, watching him like a hawk. Maya cooed and looked right at Sebastian. She smiled, a gummy, radiant, absolute expression of joy. She likes you, Isla murmured, sounding surprised. She usually screams at strangers. Strangers, Sebastian repeated. The word tasted like bile. He looked up at Isla, tears finally spilling over his lashes. Isla, I was wrong. About everything. Your 5 minutes are up, Isla repeated, her voice soft but final, like a gavel striking a sounding block. Sebastian looked at his children, his breath hitching in his chest. Leo had fallen asleep, his tiny fist still clutching Sebastian's index finger as if it were a lifeline. Maya was fighting heaviness, her eyelids drooping, battling the urge to sleep because she didn't want to stop studying this new face. They were perfect. They were terrifying. And he had missed 135 days of their existence because he had been too cowardly to want them. What happens now? He asked, his voice barely audible over the hum of the air purifier. Now. Isla stepped forward, her shadow falling over him. Now you leave. And you go back to your glass tower. And you decide what you actually want your life to look like. Not what you think you should want. Not what fits into your 5-year plan. But what will make you able to look at yourself in the mirror in 10 years. Sebastian stood slowly, the movement feeling heavy, reluctant. He gently extracted his finger from Leo's grip, an act that felt physically painful. And if I decide I want to be part of this, if I decide I want them, then we figure it out, she said. But hear me clearly, Sebastian. I will not let you be a part-time father. I won't let you treat fatherhood like a board membership you attend once a quarter. If you want this, you have to want the grit, the sleepless nights, the vomit, the terror, the complete and total demolition of the life you thought you wanted. And if I want all of it, Isla's expression, guarded and fierce, softened just a fraction. It was the crack in the armor he needed to see. Then we start slowly, carefully, and we see if the man you are today is capable of becoming the father they deserve. She ushered him to the door. As he stepped out into the hallway, the cool air hitting his flushed face, he turned back. Leo has your eyes, she whispered now. Maya has your stubbornness. And they are the best thing I have ever done. The door clicked shut. Sebastian stood in the hallway, the sound of the lock sliding home echoing like a gunshot. He was on the outside again. But this time, He knew exactly what was behind the door, and the knowledge set him on fire. Sebastian didn't go home. He couldn't bear the silence of the penthouse. Instead, he drove the Aston Martin up the winding roads to Cary Park, the overlook that offered the postcard view of the Seattle skyline. The Space Needle pierced the clouds, the city lights glittering like a spilled jewelry box against the dark water of the Sound. Usually, this view grounded him. It reminded him of what he had conquered. Tonight, it felt like a mockery. He sat on a damp bench, the mist clinging to his coat. His phone had been vibrating incessantly for an hour. Vivian had called twice. Dominic Reed, his business partner, had sent 3 urgent texts about the Portland merger. His executive assistant had forwarded emails marked urgent. It was all noise. Static. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt the ghost sensation of Leo's hand gripping his finger. He saw the fierce competence in Isla's movements, the way she anticipated the baby's needs before they even cried. She was a mother. She had transformed. And he was what? A CEO? A rich man on a park bench? He finally answered the phone when it buzzed again. It wasn't business. It was blood. Sebastian, his father's voice clipped and precise. I've been trying to reach you. Dominic tells me you canceled the Portland prep session. Alistair Cross was not a man who called to chat. He called to audit. At 68, he was a titan of old industry, a man who viewed emotion as an inefficiency to be eliminated. Something came up, Sebastian said, staring at the lights of the city. Something more important than the merger. There is nothing more important than a $40 million expansion, Sebastian. Unless the building is on fire. Sebastian almost laughed. It sounded hysterical in his own throat. Dad, can I ask you something? There was a pause. Sebastian never asked for advice. Proceed. When I was born, were you ready to be a father? The silence on the other end was heavy, weighted with confusion. That is an abstract question. Why do you ask? I'm trying to understand the difference between choice and obligation. Sebastian, is there a problem? He could tell him. Right now, I have twins. You have grandchildren. But Sebastian knew exactly what Alistair would say. He would talk about trust funds, boarding schools, and damage control. He would treat Leo and Maya like assets to be managed, not people to be loved. No, Sebastian said. Just thinking. Well, stop thinking and start executing. Your mother and I have been married 42 years because we treat our marriage like a contract, not a romance. We committed to the outcome. Success requires discipline, Sebastian, not feelings. Feelings are volatile. Discipline is concrete. Commitment beyond feelings, Sebastian murmured. Precisely. Now, call Dominic. Fix this. Sebastian hung up. He looked at the phone, then at the city. Discipline. His father was right, but in the wrong direction. Sebastian had been disciplined about his ambition, disciplined about his solitude. But was he brave enough to be disciplined about love? Before we continue with Sebastian's transformation, I have a question for you. Do you think a person can fundamentally change who they are for the sake of a child? Or do we always revert to our true nature? Let us know in the comments below. We read every single one. Sebastian drove home, but sleep was a foreign country. He paced the expanse of his living room, the floor-to-ceiling windows reflecting a man he barely recognized. He poured a glass of whiskey but didn't drink it. Instead, he sat at his mahogany desk, pulled out a legal pad, and did what he did best. He made a list. But this wasn't a list of acquisition targets. It was a demolition order. The schedule, 18-hour days, were incompatible with bedtime stories. The constant travel had to stop. The penthouse. It was a bachelor pad, a museum of glass and sharp edges. It was no place for a crawler. The ego. This was the hardest one. To be a father, he had to stop being the most important person in the room. At 7 a.m., the sun bleaching the sky gray, he called Dominic. Sebastian, thank God. The investors are panic spiraling. I need to restructure my role, Dom. Excuse me? You're breaking up? I thought you said restructure. I want to step back from operations. I want to focus on strategy and vision. No more day-to-day management. No more emergency travel. Dominic was silent for 10 seconds. Are you having a breakdown? Is this a midlife crisis? Should I call a doctor? I'm having a breakthrough. We've built a company that can run without me holding its hand every hour. If it can't, then we failed. Sebastian, the timing. The timing is non-negotiable. Draft the transition plan. We implement it Monday. Next, he called his real estate broker. I want to list the penthouse, Sebastian said, his voice flat. And I need you to find me a house. A house. Like an investment property. A home. 3 bedrooms minimum. A yard. Good schools. Somewhere a child could scrape a knee and be safe. Okay. When do you want to look? Now. By that afternoon, Sebastian had walked through 6 properties. He saw sleek modern townhomes that felt cold. He saw historic mansions that felt like museums. And then he saw it. A craftsman in Wallingford. It had a wraparound porch, a giant oak tree in the backyard, and a kitchen that smelled like potential. It wasn't a showpiece. It was a sanctuary. I'll take it, he told the stunned agent. Don't you want to sleep on it? Check the comps. I know what I want. As evening fell, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange, Sebastian found himself back on Pine Street. He hadn't texted. He hadn't called. He just showed up, driven by a magnetic pull he couldn't resist. He knocked on 3B. Isla opened the door. She wore the same sweatpants, her eyes rimmed with red. When she saw him, her shoulders sagged, not with relief, but with a heavy, wary resignation. It's been less than 24 hours, she said. I know, but I couldn't wait. Sebastian, I want all of it, he interrupted, the words tumbling out. The grit, the sleepless nights, the vomit, the terror. I want to be their father, Isla. Not a donor, not a visitor. Their father. Isla leaned against the doorframe, studying him. She was looking for the lie. She was looking for the manic energy of a man trying to fix a mistake, rather than a man making a lifetime commitment. What does that look like to you? She asked. I don't know yet, he admitted, stripping away his usual armor of competence. I truly don't know. But I want to learn. I want to be someone they can count on. Someone who shows up. From inside, the twin harmony of waking babies began, a rising chorus of demand. Isla looked back toward the sound, then at him. This isn't going to be a movie montage, Sebastian. I am not the girl you dated. Motherhood has hardened me. I have non-negotiables now. I'm counting on that. For the first time, a ghost of a smile touched her lips. Then I guess you better come in. It's bath time. And if you think closing a merger is hard, try washing 2 slippery infants who hate water. Sebastian stepped over the threshold. He wasn't just walking into an apartment. He was walking out of his old life. 3 weeks later, Sebastian realized that the CEO of a billion-dollar company was utterly unqualified to manage 2 infants. Babies, he discovered, were anarchists. They did not care about his schedule. They did not respect his authority. They simply were. She's been crying for 40 minutes, Sebastian said, pacing the small living room with Maya strapped to his chest. He was sweating. I've tried the bottle. The diaper. The white noise. The bouncing. Isla was on the sofa, feeding Leo. She looked like she hadn't slept in a decade. Sometimes they just cry, Sebastian. It's how they decompress. There has to be a solution. A variable I'm missing. The solution is accepting that you can't fix it. You just have to be there while she goes through it. He looked down at Maya. Her face was red, scrunched in misery. He stopped trying to shush her and just held her tighter, pressing his cheek to the soft fuzz of her head. I've got you, he whispered into the screaming. I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. Slowly, miraculously, the crying jagged down into whimpers. Then silence. Then the heavy, warm weight of a sleeping child. Sebastian froze, afraid to breathe. The feeling of her surrender, the absolute trust of her body relaxing against his, hit him harder than any adrenaline rush he'd ever felt. You're getting better, Isla observed quietly. I had a good teacher. The last 3 weeks had been a boot camp. Sebastian came over every evening at 6 p.m., straight from the office, leaving Dominic to handle the frantic calls from partners. He stayed until the babies were down, sometimes sleeping on Isla's lumpy couch when the nights were bad. I found a house, he said softly, afraid to wake Maya. Isla stilled. Oh, in Wallingford. 4 bedrooms. A yard. A porch. That sounds nice. For you. Isla, we need to talk about logistics. Logistics, she repeated, the word flat. This apartment, it's suffocating you. You're doing everything in a hallway. And me coming over every night, it's a stopgap. It's not a life. So what are you proposing? Move in with me. The silence stretched. The only sound was Leo's rhythmic sucking and the rain against the window. Move in with you, Isla said, her voice careful. Like together? Like co-parents. You take the master suite with the twins. I take the guest room. We share the kitchen. We share the load. Really share it. 50/50ths. And us? She asked, looking him dead in the eye. What are we? We are parents, Sebastian said. Isla, I won't lie to you. I don't know if we can be what we were. But I know that I can't make decisions anymore without thinking about you in them. I know that my life feels empty when I'm not here. That's not love, Sebastian. That's dependency. Is it? Or is it finally understanding priority? Isla stood up, burping Leo with practiced efficiency. I need to know something. If the crying never stopped, if the cute moments disappeared, would you still want this? Or are you just enamored with the novelty? Sebastian looked at the sleeping girl in his arms. He thought about the board meeting he had skipped yesterday. He thought about the empty penthouse he had already listed for sale. I'm not enamored, he said roughly. I'm terrified. But I'd rather be terrified here with you than safe anywhere else. Isla looked at him, really looked at him. She saw the dark circles under his eyes, the spit-up stain on his expensive shirt that he hadn't noticed. She saw a man who was trying to rewrite his entire genetic code. Wallingford, she mused. Does it have a good kitchen? Sebastian smiled, and it was genuine. Chef's grade, gas range, and a window that looks out on the yard. I'd need to see it, she said. And we would need rules. Boundaries. If this doesn't work, I need to know I have an exit strategy. Whatever you need. I just want us under one roof. Suddenly, both babies stirred. Leo let out a chirp, and Maya's eyes fluttered open. They looked from Isla to Sebastian, blinking in the low light. I think they're voting yes, Sebastian whispered. Isla let out a laugh, a real one, breathless and light. I think you might be right. The move took 2 weeks. The house in Wallingford swallowed their lives whole. Isla stood in the kitchen, the morning sun streaming across the quartz countertops. It was chaotic. Boxes were half unpacked. Toys were already colonizing the living room. But for the first time in months, she didn't feel the crushing weight of isolation. Sebastian came down the stairs. He was wearing jeans and a t-shirt, a sight that still disoriented her. Coffee, he said, pressing a mug into her hand. Black, 2 sugars. You remembered. I remember everything about you, Isla. I just forgot how to value it. Her phone rang. It was the hospital, Children's Hospital. She had interviewed for a communications director role weeks ago, before Sebastian re-entered the picture. Hello. Isla Bennett. This is Dr. Montgomery. We'd like to offer you the position. Isla's heart leaped. Full-time. Benefits. A salary that meant independence. That's incredible, she stammered. When would I start? 2 weeks. We're eager to have you. She hung up, her hand shaking. Good news. Sebastian asked, leaning against the counter. They offer me the job. The director role. That's amazing, Isla. You're overqualified, honestly. It pays $68,000, she said, almost to herself. I could support us. If things went wrong. Sebastian's smile faltered. You know money isn't an issue, right? I've set up trust funds. I've transferred. It's an issue for me, she cut in. I need to know I'm not a kept woman, Sebastian. I need to know I have my own ground to stand on. I get it, he said, though his jaw tightened. I want you to take it. We'll make it work. We'll hire a nanny for the gaps. A nanny, she repeated. Strangers raising our kids? Backups, Isla. Not replacements. We have to be realistic. Just then, Sebastian's phone began to buzz. It vibrated across the marble island like an angry hornet. Dominic. He ignored it. It buzzed again. And again. Take it, Isla said. He's been calling all morning. Sebastian sighed and swiped the screen. Dominic. This better be life or death. It's death. Dominic's voice crackled over the speaker. The Portland investors are pulling out. They're walking, Sebastian. Sebastian stood up straighter. What? What? Because you've been unreachable. They think the company is rudderless. They think you're having a breakdown. They want a face-to-face meeting, Sebastian. Tomorrow. Or the deal is dead. Isla watched Sebastian's face. She saw the old Sebastian flickering behind his eyes. The shark, the closer. I can't go tomorrow, Sebastian said. It's Saturday. We're still unpacking. Are you insane? Dominic shouted. This is $40 million. This is the national expansion. Get on the jet, Sebastian. Fix this. Sebastian looked at Isla. He looked at the twins playing on the floor. No, he said. Set up a video call. Monday morning. Video isn't going to cut it. Then let them walk, Sebastian snapped. If they can't handle a CEO having a life, they aren't the partners we want. He hung up. The room was silent. You should go. Isla said quietly. I told you, I'm done with that. No, she said, stepping closer. You're overcorrecting. You're trying so hard to prove you're a dad that you're torching your career. And if you lose that company, eventually, you will resent us. I won't. You will. Go to Portland, Sebastian. Save the deal. Show us, that you can be a father and a CEO. That's the real test. Balance. Sebastian looked at her, torn. If I go, will you be here when I get back? We live here now, she said simply. We aren't going anywhere. Go do what you do best. And then come home. Sebastian grabbed his keys. He kissed Leo on the head. He kissed Maya on the cheek. And then he paused in front of Isla. He didn't kiss her, but he looked at her with an intensity that burned. I'll be back in 24 hours, he promised. And I'm bringing that deal home for them. As the front door closed, Isla picked up Maya. Your daddy, she whispered, is trying really, really hard. Sebastian stood in the glass-walled conference room of the Portland Marriott, the gray ribbon of the Willamette River winding silently below. 18 hours ago, he had been arguing about diaper brands. Now, he was fighting for the soul of his company. The silence in the room was suffocating. Mr. Cross, Margaret Sterling said, closing the dossier in front of her. She was the lead investor, a woman who could smell fear like a shark smells blood in the water. We appreciate you flying in. But candor is the currency we trade in. We are concerned. Concerned, Sebastian repeated, his voice neutral. About your commitment. 3 weeks ago, you were micromanaging the font size on the press release. Yesterday, your COO told us you were unavailable. The market reads silence as instability, Sebastian. And we don't invest in instability. James Wong, another partner, leaned forward. To be blunt, it looks like you've checked out. Like you're bored. And we aren't handing a $40 million check to a bored CEO. Sebastian looked at the faces around the table. The old Sebastian, the machine, would have spun a narrative. He would have lied about a secret acquisition or a health scare. He would have charmed and bullied his way to a signature. But the old Sebastian was gone. He had died the moment Leo grabbed his finger. You're right, Sebastian said. The room froze. Dominic, sitting in the corner, looked like he might swallow his tongue. I have been distracted, Sebastian continued, walking toward the window. My priorities have shifted violently in the last month. Could you elaborate? Margaret asked, her voice cooling by 10 degrees. Sebastian turned. He thought of Isla's exhausted face. He thought of the way Maya fought sleep because she didn't want to miss a single second of the world. I became a father, he said. The words hit the sterile air like a grenade. To 4-month-old twins I didn't know existed until 20 days ago. James blinked. Excuse me. I'm learning what that means. And it has fundamentally changed how I operate. It has changed how I view risk, how I view time, and how I view this company. Mr. Cross, Margaret interrupted. This is touching, really. But we aren't a therapy group. We are a venture capital firm. And you are investing in judgment, Sebastian countered, his voice rising with a new kind of authority, not the bluster of ego, but the conviction of purpose. 6 months ago, I worked 18-hour days because I had nothing to go home to. I made every decision myself because I didn't trust anyone else to breathe without my permission. That wasn't leadership. That was vanity. He walked to the whiteboard, uncapping a marker. The smell of the ink was sharp, familiar. Efficiency, he wrote. Sustainability. Legacy. I don't work 18 hours anymore, he said, turning to face them. I work 10. But in those 10 hours, I am lethal. I prioritize ruthlessly because I have to. I delegated operations to my senior team, and guess what? Productivity is up 23%. Why? Because I stopped being the bottleneck. He tapped the word legacy. And this isn't just a quarterly report to me anymore. This company is what I leave behind. It's the world my children will inherit. Do you think I'm going to let this fail? I have never been more motivated to build something permanent than I am right now. His phone buzzed in his pocket. A single vibration. He ignored it. But the screen lit up on the table. A text from Isla. Leo took a bottle from Claire. He's branching out. Hope you're killing it. And then, a photo. Maya, strapped in her bouncy seat, grinning toothlessly at the camera, with Leo asleep in the background. The image punched a hole through his professional veneer. He was missing it. Right now, miles away, his son was learning new things, and his daughter was smiling at someone else. The ache was sharp, physical, but instead of weakening him, it steeled him. You're worried I'm soft, Sebastian said, picking up the phone and sliding it into his pocket without looking at the text. You're worried I'm a liability. But let me tell you something. I used to build energy grids for profit. Now, I'm building them because I need the lights to stay on for the next 50 years. You want a CEO who is hungry for a bonus? Go to Wall Street. You want a CEO who is building a future because he has a literal stake in it? Sign the check. Margaret stared at him. The room was silent, save for the hum of the HVAC system. Purpose, Sebastian said quietly. That's what you're buying. Not my time. My purpose. Margaret exchanged a look with James. A subtle nod passed between them. Give us 10 minutes, she said. Sebastian stepped out into the hallway. His heart was hammering a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He had either just delivered the greatest pitch of his life, or he had committed professional suicide. He dialed Isla immediately. How did it go? She answered on the first ring. I told them. You told them the projections? I told them about the twins. I told them I'm a father. Silence stretched on the line. Sebastian, that's risky. I'm done hiding, Isla. I'm done pretending that the best parts of me are the parts that make money. If they can't handle the truth, then they aren't the right partners. I won't build this company on a lie anymore. And if they walk? She asked softly. Sebastian looked out the window at the unfamiliar city. Then we find other investors. We scrape. We rebuild. But I'm not trading you and the kids for a check. Not ever again. You sound different, she said. I feel different. Being here, being away from you. It doesn't feel like freedom, Isla. It feels like exile. He took a breath. The words were sitting there, terrifying and necessary. I love you, he said. The silence on the other end was absolute. He hadn't meant to say it. Or maybe he had meant to say it for weeks. I love our children, he corrected quickly, afraid he had pushed too far. And I love what we could build together. If we're brave enough. Sebastian. The conference room door opened. Margaret beckoned him in. I have to go, he said. Whatever happens, I'm coming home tonight. He hung up and walked back into the lion's den. The investors were standing. Margaret Sterling actually cracked a smile. A rare, terrifying event. Mr. Cross, she said. We've decided to move forward. The expansion is greenlit. Sebastian felt the tension drain out of him, leaving him lightheaded. Thank you. You won't regret this. However, James interjected, a grin spreading across his face. We have one condition. Sebastian stiffened. Which is, we want to meet the assets, Margaret said. Any man who can turn a diaper change into a philosophy on corporate sustainability. Well, those must be some impressive children. Sebastian laughed. A real, unguarded laugh that startled even him. Deal. If you're rooting for Sebastian's new life, this is the moment to hit that like button. It tells us you want more stories about redemption and second chances. And don't forget to subscribe. You won't believe where this family ends up in 2 years. 2 years later. Saturday morning in the Wallingford house was not a time of peace. It was a time of orchestrated, joyful pandemonium. No. Maya, now a 2-year-old force of nature with auburn curls and an iron will, was systematically launching slices of banana from her high chair onto the kitchen floor. Each throw was accompanied by a firm declaration of refusal, despite the fact that she was eating the banana between throws. Maya, gravity works. We have established this, Sebastian said, coming down the stairs. He looked different. The sharp edges were gone. He wore a soft gray t-shirt that had been stretched out of shape by tiny hands, and his hair was damp from a shower he had likely taken in under 3 minutes. Daddy up. Leo was standing on the coffee table. Again, he stood like a conquering king surveying his domain, clutching a toy garbage truck to his chest. Leo James Cross. Isla called from the kitchen, where she was simultaneously packing a diaper bag, checking her work email, and brewing coffee. We do not climb the furniture. The floor is for feet. I tall. Leo argued, his logic impeccable to himself. I've got him, Sebastian said, scooping his son off the table and swinging him into the air. Leo squealed, a sound of pure delight. Garbage truck, Leo announced, shoving the plastic vehicle into Sebastian's nose. Yes, excellent truck. Very aerodynamic, Sebastian agreed, settling Leo on his hip. He walked into the kitchen, navigating the minefield of discarded toys and banana slices. The kitchen was the heart of the house. It was messy. It was loud. It was perfect. Papers from Sebastian's office were mixed in with Isla's hospital fundraising brochures. A sippy cup sat next to a bottle of vintage wine. Coffee, Sebastian said, pressing a mug into Isla's hand. He kissed her temple, an easy, automatic gesture of intimacy. You look beautiful, even covered in banana shrapnel. I look like a hostage victim, Isla laughed, leaning into him for a fleeting second of support. Your daughter is staging a coup. She's displaying executive leadership skills, Sebastian countered, winking at Maya. Disrupting the supply chain. She's displaying a toddler tantrum, Isla corrected, wiping banana off her cheek. But she gets the stubbornness from you. And the charm from you. They moved around each other with the fluid choreography of a team that had survived the trenches. 2 years of fevers, 2 years of tantrums, 2 years of learning how to be a we, instead of 2 is. It hadn't been easy. There had been fights, loud ones, usually about boundaries or schedules. There had been nights where Sebastian slept in the guest room because the pressure of balancing the CEO role with fatherhood felt like it was crushing him. But they had always come back to the kitchen table in the morning. Your mother called, Isla said, wiping down the high chair while Sebastian wrestled Maya into a clean shirt. Let me guess. She wants to schedule the visit down to the minute. She wants to bake cookies. With Maya. Sebastian paused. My mother? Patricia Cross? The woman who uses a fork to eat pizza? Apparently, grandmotherhood changes people too. She's bringing an apron. Sebastian laughed, shaking his head. If you told me 3 years ago that my mother would be baking cookies and I would be excited about a garbage truck, I would have had you committed. It's a good life, Sebastian, Isla said softly, stopping her frantic movement for a second. He looked at her, really looked at her. It's the only life. Daddy, park, Leo shouted, banging his truck on the counter. Swings. The boss has spoken, Sebastian said. We have a strict deadline for the swings. The trip to the park was a military operation. Snacks. Wipes. Backup clothes. Backup snacks. Green Lake was teeming with families. Sebastian pushed the double stroller, Isla walking beside him, her hand occasionally brushing his. They found their spot under a massive oak tree. While Isla spread the blanket, Sebastian pushed the twins on the swings. Higher, Maya commanded. Faster, Leo echoed. Sebastian pushed them, watching their faces blur with joy. He remembered the cold silence of his penthouse. He remembered the deafening quiet of his old life. And looking at these two laughing, chaotic miracles, he felt a gratitude so profound it almost brought him to his knees. Look at them, Isla said as he returned to the blanket, winded but smiling. They're happy. They're safe, Sebastian added. Do you ever miss it? Isla asked suddenly. She was watching a man in a sharp suit walk past the park, talking loudly on his phone. The freedom? The control? Being the most important person in the room? Sebastian watched the man. He saw the stress in his shoulders, the disconnect from the world around him. No, Sebastian said. I miss who I thought I was supposed to be sometimes. But I don't miss being him. I got a promotion, Isla blurted out. Sebastian turned to her. The regional director role? Yes. It means travel. Maybe a week a month. She looked nervous. It was the old fear. The fear that her ambition would inconvenience him, that the fragile balance they had built would shatter. That's fantastic, Isla, Sebastian said, grinning. You earned this. But the logistics, the nanny, bedtime. We'll figure it out. I'll scale back during your travel weeks. We hire help. We make it work. Just like you did for me when the Portland deal went sideways last year. Isla's shoulders dropped. You're sure, Isla, your success isn't a threat to this family. It's a pillar of it. We build this together. She smiled, and the sun seemed to catch fire in her eyes. Thank you for becoming the partner I didn't think existed. Thank you for waiting for me to catch up. Maya came stumbling over, clutching a handful of acorns like they were diamonds. Mama, Daddy, gift. She dropped the acorns onto the blanket with solemn pride. Leo followed, presenting a slightly crushed dandelion. Treasure, Sebastian said seriously, accepting the weed. This goes in the vault. As the sun began to dip, painting the sky in gold and violet, they packed up. The walk to the car was slow. Leo was exhausted, draped over Sebastian's shoulder. Maya was holding Isla's hand, singing a song that made no sense to anyone but her. At the traffic light, heading home to the craftsman house with the messy kitchen and the yard full of toys, Isla reached across the console and took Sebastian's hand. We did it, she whispered. We became a family. Sebastian squeezed her hand, feeling the calluses on his palm from the monkey bars, the warmth of her skin, the weight of the ring he had put on her fingers 6 months ago. Not out of obligation, but out of absolute, undeniable certainty. We're just getting started, he said. Some love stories end with a kiss in the ring. Some end with a wedding. But the real love stories? They don't end. They just change. They evolve from grand gestures into the quiet heroism of showing up, day after day, for the people who hold your heart in their sticky, small hands. Looking back, would you have been brave enough to make the choice Sebastian made? To tear down your perfect life to build a messy, real one? If this story touched your heart, if you believe in second chances and the power of family, please share your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear your story. Thank you for watching Apex Tales. Don't forget to like, comment, and most importantly, smash that subscribe button so you never miss what happens next. Join our family today.